Interstate 81. Yeah. Alright, today we are talking about southbound Interstate 81. As you might expect, it's got some lovely views going through the mountains in the interior east. And we see I-81 southbound goes from the Canadian border in upstate New York all the way down to just before Knoxville in Tennessee. If it were mixed with I-59, it'd make quite a nice north to south road. You're watching Control City Freak. This is the YouTube channel where we talk about interstate highways and the places that they are assigned to go to. If you dig this kind of content, go ahead and give us a like, and if you really like it, why not subscribe? Yeah, subscribe. Alright, as I said, today we are going to be talking about southbound I-81. So we begin here on the 401 in Ontario, Canada, which I will get to one day. And we see an I-81 shield right there on the 401 for this exit for 137, Control City being to USA. So they do the same thing in Canada as we do. And we cross this bridge on the Canadian side, the Thousand Island Bridge, and it looks just like the side on the US one. Two different bridges. This is a toll bridge from Canada, costs 50 cents more going southbound than it does northbound. And once we're on the island, we see this 2 I-81 sign as we near the border. And here we have the border to get into USA from Canada. Once across, we get a quick welcome to New York sign. Apologize for the quality here, it's all 2007. It's all the border stuff is all 2007 on Street View. And still on this island, we get a sign for Watertown 27, Syracuse 100. So I agree with that. Putting Syracuse on the sign right from the jump is the way to go. Now we cross the American Thousand Island Bridge. So as you see, it looks pretty similar. And we head into mainland New York State. And here we see southbound 81 is Watertown, Syracuse. So smart to put both of them on there instead of just Watertown. At interchanges, we see it is just Watertown for local traffic, but way up here, that kind of makes sense because traffic up here is probably pretty local. We meet 781 for Fort Drum, and also on the sign on 781 getting on to 81, it is signed for southbound Watertown as well. On 781, I think they should probably go with Syracuse, but I guess probably a lot of military folks go into Watertown, so I guess that makes sense too. Down here we are meeting South 81 Syracuse, and 481 is signed for DeWitt, but that won't be the case for long as they are going to be tearing down much of I-81 through downtown Syracuse. Soon this is going to be South Business Loop 81 Syracuse, and 81 South probably Binghamton, I would guess, probably on this sign. So we are following 481 this time around, and we see this exit 5, exit 6. New York uses sequential numbering instead of mileage numbering, which I think is terrible. I think that's the main problem with New York State signage, but apparently they are planning on changing all of I-81s to mileage based once I-81 is on 481's routing here. So here 481, future 81 meets 90 for Albany, Buffalo. On the intersection from the thruway, we get south 481, Syracuse Fairgrounds and Binghamton, and north Oswego, Watertown. So we get a local and a more distant place on both of those. And I imagine that'll probably stay the same once this is 81. Here we meet 690, west Syracuse Fairgrounds, and I assume this is going to change to south 81, Binghamton, and not DeWitt. Here's another interchange onto 481, and again, I'm going to assume this is going to be south Binghamton once this is I-81. Here's 481 meeting 81, and that South Binghamton will stay, and North 81 will become North Business Loop 81, Syracuse. Once out of the Syracuse area, we get Binghamton. Binghamton, 68 miles away here. And I do think it makes sense to sign that southbound because it's not like there's any huge cities in PA, and also there are 2 other interstates in Binghamton, and it's a reasonably sized city. There's a big SUNY there, so I get it. At interchanges, it is not too surprisingly North 81 Syracuse, South 81 Binghamton. And here we meet I-86 in Binghamton. It is signed west for Corning. Not sure how I feel about that. I haven't looked at I-86 yet though. And 81 is going for Scranton and New York City for 86 East. Across the river, and this is about as good of a view of Binghamton as we get. And now we split with I-86, New York City, awesome signage there, and South 81 Scranton, which is the correct choice. Welcome to Pennsylvania. Here we go again. Alright, at the jump in Pennsylvania, 81 is signed south for Scranton, so a good choice by PA, but also a very obvious one. We're meeting 476, and this is more or less a direct interchange with 476, so it is wild that we get Clark Summit as the control city and not, Allentown or, God forbid, Philadelphia. Getting onto 476 itself from this Clark Summit interchange, 476 is signed for Allentown, so that's okay. Continuing south, we are meeting I-84 and 380, so they are signed for Carbondale and Mount Pocono, just as they were before. 81 south for Wilkes-Barre. And we're coming to that weird other indirect interchange with 476. Again, it's insane that Pittston is the control city, the small town that's the next town over on 315, instead of signing an actual control city for 476. So Allentown, probably. South 81, Wilkes-Barre is cool. Here we come into the greater Wilkes-Barre area, and we get kind of a through traffic kind of thing on 81 South instead of giving us a control city. But we see on this interchange, we get 81 South Hazleton, which is ridiculous. Sign Harrisburg. Yes, I know you meet I-80 there, but so what? I-80 doesn't go anywhere in Pennsylvania anyway, so sign Harrisburg. We do have some nice scenery on our way to the I-80 junction, and here we meet I-80 and its awful control cities, and we get 81 South Harrisburg. So that's what you should have done from Wilkes-Barre, possibly even from Scranton. We've already passed I-80, but we still get a Hazleton 6, because Hazleton, I guess, still does exist. It's not actually at that interchange, it's a little bit south of it, and then Harrisburg 86. But smart to sign it for Harrisburg, which they should have done all along. Even at small interchanges, it is Harrisburg. I'm meeting 61 for Frackville. I wonder if that's where fracking came from. And we get some nice scenery as we continue through the mountains of Pennsylvania. More lovely scenery here, the one that we saw at the top of the episode. Now we're meeting I-78. This is pretty good signage for I-81 and for Pennsylvania. South 81 Harrisburg and 78 Allentown. Wouldn't make sense to sign New York City coming this direction so much. If you were going to New York, you would have taken a different way earlier. And here we meet I-83 in the Harrisburg area, so 81 South North Harrisburg and Carlisle, 83 South South Harrisburg and York. Not great second cities on there. That could be Baltimore and Roanoke. And eventually we are on 81 South Carlisle, which is ridiculous. That is a suburb of Harrisburg. There's no reason to sign Carlisle at all. I could see signing Hagerstown here. That would be fine. But I personally would pick Roanoke, just because I think it'd be awesome to have a Virginia city signed in Pennsylvania. And now we get our exit 11 at 276. And just as before, we don't get a pull through for 81. And we don't get 76's control cities, because why would we? Instead, we get New Kingstown and Middlesex instead of Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. Come on, PA. Here is the intersection of US 11 and 81 in Carlisle, and we get 81 South Chambersburg. Come on, why? Why? Hagerstown or Roanoke? And here you get the world's largest can of paint. Love to use that paint to fix all the signs in Pennsylvania. All right, here we go. Chambersburg 3 and Hagerstown 26, so nothing too far away here. In Chambersburg, Carlisle and Hagerstown are the control cities. And after Chambersburg, Hagerstown is the bottom line still. Welcome to Maryland. No big surprise in Maryland, we get the hype right away. To I-68, use exit 4, and this is not exit 4 coming up, this is a different road, this is US 40 coming up. And here is good old exit 4, I-70, east and west, Hancock, Frederick, pretty bad. But we get 81 South Roanoke, so nice there for Maryland. Maryland signs stuff pretty well when they don't have any more Maryland cities left to sign, and in this case we have no Maryland cities left to sign, so they actually go with something good. And at exits it is Roanoke at regular interchanges as well. Welcome to West Virginia. Let's see if Roanoke holds up. And it doesn't. It is Martinsburg. West Virginia always signing its own for sure. Martinsburg is not far away because we don't get much mileage in West Virginia. It's only 10 miles away. And then Winchester, Virginia is our long distance control city at a cool 33 miles. Here's downtown Martinsburg. No pull through for I-81 though. Although at interchanges we see 81 is South Winchester, which it's not that bad that Virginia signs it north, but I wouldn't do Winchester here, or I do Winchester, VA, because I don't think Winchester is famous enough on its own. Alright, we do get Roanoke on the bottom line here, so that's cool to see, but that's because Winchester is only 17 miles away, and we haven't even reached the border yet. And welcome to Virginia. Here we go. In Virginia, we see the control cities at interchanges are Martinsburg and Winchester in this area. Winchester is still theoretically the primary control city, but it's first on the line, and then Strasburg 26 for the I-66 interchange, I assume, and Roanoke for being the real control city. At our Winchester exit, we do get 81 South Roanoke, so well done there. They don't go with Lexington, they go with Roanoke. And at random interchanges, also 81 South Roanoke. Here we meet I-66 for Front Royal and Washington. I don't think Washington should be signed southbound on 81 the way I think it should be northbound, simply because the angles don't work. South of 66, we still have Roanoke as the final city on the mileage sign. And we meet I-64, we get I-64 East Richmond. And again, I don't think 81 should be signed for Richmond going southbound just because of the angles. Doesn't quite work. West 64, South 81, Lexington, Roanoke. That should be Charleston and Roanoke. And Lexington, Roanoke, and Charleston are all on the sign, so that is good signage by Virginia there. Much better southbound than northbound. Now we split with I-64 Lexington and Charleston. Lexington 64 meets basically right away, so Charleston is the real control city here, but I'm okay with them doing it that way. And 81 South Roanoke, as it should be. Just beyond that interchange, we get Roanoke 53, Bristol 189, so Bristol on there already, but no mention of Wytheville, so that's a little interesting. Here we meet 581, which is really the only interchange for Roanoke, or for the easy way of getting into Roanoke. On 581, 81 is signed for Salem in Bristol and 81 North Lexington. I don't know about Salem, it's just the next town over. From Roanoke, I would actually sign Charlotte and Bristol because of the I-77 meeting coming soon. And Charlotte is huge. So Christiansburg, Wytheville, Bristol. I feel like the best way to go this would be Christiansburg, Charlotte, Bristol, because I do think Charlotte, Bristol should be the co-signed control cities here. And we're meeting I-77. It is signed south for Charlotte, and 7781 for Bluefield and Bristol. Definitely don't like that Bluefield there, but if you were going to Charleston, then you would have taken 64, so I guess I do see signing Bluefield there. And here's one more look at our lovely wrong way concurrency. With 77 and 81 on our wrong way concurrency, we get Wytheville, Bluefield, Bristol as the control cities. So those make sense, one on each road and the one place that both roads will go to. Here's our split. 77 is signed for Bluefield and Charleston, West Virginia, and 81 is going to be signed for Bristol. Further down 81, we see now Bristol 17 and Knoxville 128, so good to see Knoxville is mentioned right there. And we get 381 South Bristol, so let's take a look at 381. It's quite a road. You see, here's the start of 381 in the Bristol area. So we see 281, 381, turn left. And after going quite a ways down a regular road, a stoplight street, we now get onto 381. And then we get its one and only exit with I-81. So 381 in a lot of ways is just kind of a big on-ramp. Here's a look at 381 in Google Maps. So you can see it has no exits other than 81, and then it just ends on a regular road in Bristol. 81 from this point is signed south for Knoxville, as it should be. And, well, for the final time, let's say Tennessean is tenna-believin' as we come into Tennessee for the very last time. Wow, I-24 to I-81, pretty big range for Tennessee there. We meet I-26, signed for Asheville and Johnson City east and Kingsport to the west. We don't get a pull-through on I-81, but we can see on I-26 that we are still on 81 South Knoxville. From there, Knoxville is regularly signed. We get Knoxville 90 on the bottom line here. So we will jump ahead to Knoxville. We get I-40, where I-81 will end, 40 East Asheville, 40 West Knoxville. Through traffic is, of course, routed toward West Knoxville because you're basically going straight. It's actually I-40 that's kind of making the movement here. So we'll follow that. And as you can see, 81 is almost kind of the main line. I-40 is just down to one lane as it merges with 81 there. And that will end I-81 as it flows into the I-40 stream from there. All right, let's take a look at Todd's The Way It Should Be for Interstate 81 southbound. I'm going to say the way it should be, Syracuse from the jump, pretty much the way that they do. And then Binghamton, Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, Harrisburg, Hagerstown. I would be okay with Roanoke, but Hagerstown's cool. because of the 70 junction, then Roanoke, and then Charlotte Bristol, I believe, should be cosigned from Roanoke until the junction with I-77, and then at that point it would be Bristol or Bristol Bluefield, then Bristol, and finally Knoxville, where it comes close to reaching, and obviously definitely serves. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Control City Freak. I really appreciate it. Algorithmically speaking, the video on your screen now is probably one you haven't seen, so why not check that out? Alright, I really appreciate you guys watching, and I'm excited to get to I-82 next time because for the first time in like 6-7 episodes, we don't go to Pennsylvania. I'm so excited to not go to Pennsylvania. That's gonna be awesome. Alright, my name is Todd. Thank you very much for watching, and until next week, keep on trucking.